and I'm jealous. So I got to.
She was on CBS Sunday Morning.
Oh, was she?
Today. Yeah,
Oh,
and she's running out of closet space.
Yeah, I imagine so. Because mine, I have to keep in the shed. I don't have in the room in the house for all my hats, and I only have half a dozen or so. So where is our dear Trish? Is she not here yet?
I was just looking. I don't see Trish on yet.
I was
Janet,
wondering if you'd heard from
Janet, would you mind texting her for me?
Sure.
I don't think I got a text. I'll check. No. I hope she's okay.
Yeah.
Or maybe just give her a call just in case she's sleeping in. I don't know.
Yeah, really, huh? Oh, okay, invalid number. So I can find her. Come here.
You might have to break into Breeze to get her latest and greatest.
Yeah. Let me see.
Well, I'll go ahead.
Trish just joined.
Oh, good.
Oh, good. Good. I'll have to double check the number I have here.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yep. Trish, how are you doing?
There.
Trish, are you doing okay?
I'm doing fine. My poor mom just called in tears, so
Oh,
bless her heart.
Oh dear.
I'm going over. Oh, it's a long story. I'll go over later.
Well, I think we're ready to roll if you are.
I'm ready to roll.
All right.
Always ready to roll, right?
Trish, did you happen to speak with David?
No.
I didn't either, and it dawned on me this morning that I forgot to call him.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone to our Easter service. I'm Murtha, and I serve as a worship associate in this kind, caring, justice-loving community of seekers. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation that believes all people are worthy of love. All are welcome here. We are a people who know we do not have to think alike to love alike. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you come today with joy in your heart or tears, you are welcome. Wherever you are on your journey, we welcome you. It is good to be together. Do we have any first-time visitors here today? No. I'm so sorry. I didn't have my visage showing. Do we see any hands? Anyone? Well, if you are here for the first time, and no matter where you are, if you'd like to receive our weekly emails about upcoming events and monthly newsletters, please type your name and email address in the Zoom chat box. We want to welcome you. I'm so sorry. I lost my place. And you may either say hello in the Zoom chat or unmute your mic and say your name so we can give you a special welcome. We hope you will come back and perhaps find some inspiration and a spiritual home here. This service will be recorded and posted in the Namakwa.org website. Chad Escalier, our faithful Zoomer, will keep your microphones muted during the service so that the sound quality will be as clear as possible. You will have a chance to unmute during Joys and Sorrows and for our virtual coffee hour later after the service. And now, here is Doug Stewart, my colleague and friend, the other worship associate leading today's service, to light our chalice.
We light the flame of this chalice for the warmth of love, the light of truth, and the energy of action.
No, you're not on.
Chad, over to you for our opening song, Coming Home, from the First Unitarian Church of Rochester, New York. Oops, Chad, we're not getting sound. So maybe on the, maybe on the share the computer sound.
We don't want to be late for homecoming.
I'm coming home, tell the world that I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday.
I know my kingdom awaits, and they've forgiven my mistakes.
I'm coming home,
Tell the world that I'm coming.
I'm back where I belong. I never felt so strong,
Feeling like there's nothing that I can't try.
And if you're with me, put your hands high, high, high. Hey. And if you're with me, put your hands high, high. Hey, hey, yes.
I hear the hate that's in the world.
Let's make a better place for me and my girl.
Bring our troops home. Our brothers, sisters have been gone too long. Why do we make a war zone in someone's home?
I need some folks that listen to my hurt. The ones who value me and know my worth.
A faith that feels the call to heal the earth.
Ask you what breaks your heart. Be the change you want to start. We come from all traditions, ethnic groups and generations, gay and straight of all persuasions. What unites us is desire to listen. Open our hearts in every situation. Serve the world with all the gifts we're given. So if you're in it, put your hands high. So let's begin it, put your hands high.
I'm coming home, tell the world I'm coming home.
Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday.
I know my kingdom awaits, and they've forgiven my mistakes.
I'm coming home, tell the world that I'm coming home. Hey kids, come on along, we'll share a story and a song. So listen with your heart, and for too long you might have questions, and you know there isn't one that's wrong.
Why does my friend say Johnny's weird? Because she has two moms.
How come I have to have an iPod to belong?
You know what? Let's just say the truth is right and I am wrong.
And now my boyfriend says he's gone if we don't get it on.
I need to talk about these things so I can go back strong.
Bring it on! You know we're here to help you grow, to hear that voice inside you that you'll come to know. So if you're in it, put your hands high.
So let's begin and put your hands high.
Yeah.
I'm coming home, tell the world that I'm coming home. Let the rain wash away all the pain of yesterday. I
That's right, you're home. Back where you belong. Back where you feel strong. That's what makes our faith community. Comforting each one at times of need. Unsettling our apathy and greed. Inspired by our goals like Susan B. Be one, there'll be a bit of heresy. Yeah! So if you're in it, put your hands high. So let's begin it, join your hands high. Yeah! Whatever we do or dream, begin it. Boldness is genius and power and magic in it. Let us be bold in our living and our loving. Put your hands high.
It's good to be home.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. You always feel like home to me. And now I'd like to take this time for our congregational affirmation. And it's printed in your order of service if you're not familiar with the words. And Chad shared it on our screen. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
And now I'd like to give our time for all ages. And this is entitled Kindness Bringers, Kindness Bringers.
Any chance Kendra's here?
Oops, and Chad, can you mute everybody but myself and Trish, please? Getting a little bit of crosstalk. So for our time of all ages today, I'd like to tell you a true story about the lives of three people. It's a story that's both happy and sad. It's happy because each of these three people helped make the world a better place. But it's sad because one of the people was killed for what they believed in trying to make the world a better place. The first of these three people is a happy part. He is a songwriter. I first heard his songs in my first try at college, so a long time ago. Sometimes his songs put into words a feeling I had or drew my attention to a cause he would sing about. This songwriter's name is Peter Gabriel, and after he left a band called Genesis, he wrote a powerful song about a man named Steve Biko. I'd never heard of Steve Biko, and Peter Gabriel's song about him was the first time I'd heard about Steve Biko. Steve Biko is the second of the three people I want to tell you about, and this has a sad part. Steve Biko was a person who had dark skin, and he was born in South Africa. Back then, South Africa had laws that treated people with dark skin very badly. For instance, if you had dark skin, you could be forced to move from your own home, 3.5 million Black South Africans were removed from their homes and forced into segregated neighborhoods as the result of these bad laws. Steve Biko didn't think this treatment was fair or just or compassionate or caring or loving or treated people with worth and dignity. Steve Biko organized protests and made the phrase, "Black is beautiful," popular. He organized people to try to change the bad laws. But he was arrested for his protests, and while he was in custody, he was hurt and put in prison, where he died of his injuries. That's the sad part of this story. But Peter Gabriel, the songwriter, heard about Steve Biko and wrote a song about him in memory of his having died for trying to change his world for the better. I want to play you a little bit of that song for you. We'll hear Peter Gabriel sing a song in a live concert in a big stadium in New York City on a hot summer's day in 1986. It's so hot, Peter is dripping with sweat. The lyrics you will hear him sing are these. You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flames begin to catch, the wind will blow it higher. Oh, Biko, Biko, because Biko. Yahaila Moya, Yahaila Moya. Yahaila Moya means, it's an African phrase, it means come spirit. So he sings Yahaila Moya, come spirit. The man is dead, the man is dead. And the eyes of the world are watching now. So let's hear a part of this song sung by sung by Peter Gabriel back in 1986. Oops, maybe after a little ad.
You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flame begins to catch, the wind will blow it higher. Oh, because,
At the same time Peter Gabriel performed this concert, another person with black skin was also being held in a South African prison. This is the third person I want to tell you about. His name was Nelson Mandela, and he was in prison because he too had organized protests against the unfair, uncompassionate, uncaring, and unloving laws. He spent a total of 27 years in prison. But 4 years after the concert we watched, Nelson Mandela was freed from prison. And guess what? Here's the happiest part of the story. Nelson Mandela was eventually elected to become the president of South Africa. He went from being in prison because he protested bad laws to becoming president of his country. Steve Biko and Nelson Mandela and artists like Peter Gabriel helped bring the whole country of South Africa to fairness, compassion, caring, and love by overturning unjust laws and making better ones. And you know what? Each of us, each of you, has the power to bring at least a little bit more fairness, compassion, caring, and love into the world today, too, like our flaming chalice. We can do that every day, even just a little bit, by being kind to one another, sometimes kinder than our laws. And now it's time for joys and sorrows.
You may hear some acoustics in the backgrounds that are not planned, but it is my adolescent Kitty finding anything he can to play, especially when I'm on the computer. I apologize. It is time for us to share our joys and sorrows and concerns. First, are there any birthdays or anniversaries that are coming up this week? If you all could help me find any hands that are raised. Nothing.
Janet has a joy.
Oh, wonderful, Janet.
I do. Finally, after all these years, I'm getting a fence this week, Thursday, all around the backyard. You know, I've got a duplex, so it's big. It's big, and it's so exciting. I can't wait. Joy, joy, joy. Oh, and I see my family today too, but that's cool.
Are there others?
Hi, Pedro here.
Hi, Pedro.
I had to put my dog down last week. He was my friend for over 10 years.
Oh,
so
goodness.
that was difficult, but it was time. He was old and starting to suffer.
I'm so sorry. We all know how that feels. Are there others?
Trish, I have one regarding Kent Robertson. So Kent is a member of our beloved community, and he's now in assisted living, and he has his second COVID shot, and he can go out for outings, but he has to have someone accompany him, and so otherwise he's kind of confined to the facility. And he's getting a little stir crazy there. So if anybody would like to take Kent out for an outing, just, you know, he loves root beer floats. So taking him to Dairy Queen or something like that. If anybody would like him to do that with Kent, you can contact Sally Henry, and she'll connect you up with the facility and with Kent.
Thank you, Doug. Had several congregation members who've spent a lot of time with Kent and with others that really could use our help. It's just who we are. Any others?
Tracy Jones has a joy and sorrow.
Hello, Tracy.
Hi. The Thursday after the shooting, I was doing a support group. I have a nonprofit animal assisted wellness program, and we do a support group at the Recovery Cafe in Longmont. And the Thursday after the shooting, we were doing a support group, and we had a gentleman come in, and he had a mental health crisis, and ended up destroying the place, and we had to call the police, and it was very scary. And I just hope that he gets the help he needs. And luckily he did not hurt anyone, but it was very scary and anxiety producing for everyone that was in the building at the time. But it was very scary, and I just hope he gets the help he needs. So that was my sorrow. The joy is finally I'm defending my dissertation for my PhD this Wednesday. So
wow.
that's just for my first 3 chapters. It's just the first process. Then my final dissertation probably isn't until December, but this is just for the first 3 chapters. It's for my proposal. So anxious about that, but it's a joy.
Well, thank you for sharing your concerns about that fellow who threatened some people, and we feel very sad for him and hope he does find some support. And congratulations to you. Oh my goodness. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Are there others? I will add one briefly and talk with any of you who want to know more later, which is I'm not sure. It's sad and concerning to me, and joyful all at once. My studio space, the building here, is going to be changed to some other purpose, and so I'm leaving. And I have until the 1st of July to find a new studio space. But I've decided with my children in New England that it will be in New England. And I will find ways to still be here with you as much as possible, with the art community and my beloved Namaqua friends. But I will be close to the ocean and my kids. And that's a huge joy for me. So just wish me luck and come help me pack. So I'm going to add a few more pieces to the bowl. And normally we would light a candle in honor of the joys and sorrows beyond our walls, which are many and deep and wide. But my kitty was playing with the candle. And so I'm going to skip that step and just use some more stones. But we extend our caring to a suffering world and hold it also in our hearts. The flame of beloved community shines brightly and never goes out. And now we have a centering meditation as a response. This would make Laurel, Reverend Laurel, very happy. And it's beautiful, and it comes from the First Unitarian Society of Denver.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
There are people around town who aren't very happy.
Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace.
And now I'd like to give my reflection, which is entitled Atonement. 20 years ago, my now wife Cam and I were dating. Our relationship had become serious to the point we were exploring combining our lives. And we had already talked about finances. But what to do about religion? I was a Unitarian Universalist, and Cam was a longtime member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, colloquially called Mormons. So it was quite a stretch for both of us. We brought up the topic. There was a moment of silence, and then Cam tentatively asked me, "Do you believe in the atonement?" I paused. I could tell this was important. I replied. "What's the atonement?" We had quite a journey ahead of us. The atonement, it turns out, is when Jesus atoned for the sins of humankind, taking the sins of humankind on upon his death, thereby reconciling God and humankind. Although this belief is standard throughout Christianity, somehow I never knew it by this name, even though I was raised Methodist as a child. Atonement, Jesus dying to take on our sins, was a lot for this Unitarian Universalist to unpack. Thomas Jefferson, free thinker and a slave owner, created his own version of the first 4 books of the New Testament, the ones that purport to be from direct witnesses of Jesus, although most scholars date the writings to 30 to 80 years after the death of Jesus. They likely captured the oral history rather than firsthand accounts. By cutting and pasting, quite literally, Jefferson included the moral teachings of Jesus, but excluded most miracles, the resurrection among them. Jefferson said of the result of this cutting and pasting in a letter, he said, "Probably you've heard me say that I've taken the 4 evangelists and cut out from them every text they had recorded of the moral precepts of Jesus and arranged them in a certain order. And although they appeared but as fragments, yet fragments of the most sublime edifice of morality which has ever been exhibited to humans." The fragments made the most sublime edifice of morality which had ever been exhibited to humans, Jefferson said. By my own 6th grade, I didn't know what to do with God, let alone Jesus. God is love, my mother had told me. Yet a supposedly all-powerful God not only allowed terrible things to happen, but actually caused them, like Noah's flood wiping out everyone on earth, except for Noah's family and the animals. This didn't make sense to me. So around about 6th grade, I set God and Jesus aside. Fast forward to decades and decades later, by then I had become adept at translating the God talk of other religions into terms this Unitarian Universalist could deal with. Caring, compassion, worth, and love among them, all deserving leading capital letters as ideals. But what to do about Jesus? Did Jesus ever even exist as a person? In a not unusual approach for Unitarian Universalists tackling a challenge, I took a course. The Historical Jesus is taught by Bart Ehrman of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and available on sale through the Great Courses for $35. I recommend it. In 24 half-hour lectures, Ehrman explains how an historian attempts to figure out what the heck went on back then, 2,000 years ago. Spoiler alert. Ehrman is convinced that the person Jesus existed and says virtually all historians who have studied the matter agree. even though almost all support comes from the books of the Bible, which you might think would be biased evidence. The historians give considerable weight to sayings and events which would have been unpopular. That these were recorded indicate they probably did happen. Interestingly, though, he says that since an historian tries to figure out what probably happened, and by definition, a miracle is improbable, as an historian, he can't take a position on the miracles attributed to Jesus, including the resurrection. They aren't probable. No miracle is. Somehow taking the course gave me permission to take Jesus off the shelf and consider him again. There are still swirls of mist and fog in my mind around Jesus, but here's my current imagining, and I invite you to imagine along with me, if you like. Let's take a trip in our Wayback Machine and suppose we grew up in those ancient times. We'd find ourselves in a society where justice was governed by two moralities. First was Roman law, based mainly on might makes right. Hurt a Roman citizen and your whole town might be decimated. Be found guilty of insurrection and face crucifixion. As a huge improvement over might makes right, a portion of society followed a different law than the Roman one, the Old Testament law of an eye for an eye. This was a huge improvement to both power makes right and also better than continual escalation, in which Joe did something to me, so I'm going to get back by doing something twice as bad to him. Under eye for an eye justice, escalations would stop and harms could be put to rest. Civilization became more civil. Our justice system uses retribution like this to this very day. But where is the caring, compassion, worth, and love to be found in either system of justice? Might makes right, or equal, or supposedly equal, retribution. In a society with these two moralities, Jesus can be seen as a radical who advocated love, a love that passes all understanding. My mom, who had said God is love to me, seemed to have some sense of this, a sense that goes beyond any dogma. Neighbors would come to her for advice, and she was among a group of interfaith women who helped a family from Germany relocate to our town after World War II. While Jesus no doubt witnessed and partook in all kinds of individual acts of love person to person, at the societal level, acts of love and compassion were completely lacking, just absent from the ethos and the moralities of that age. Justice was power, or eye for an eye. What could one person do to wake society up to love in heaven's name? Some radical statements attributed to Jesus survive to this day. Surely in such a constrained society, this passage was not popular to hear. It's not popular yet. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let them have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. Those words must have felt like a slap to the cheek to anyone hearing them back then. But they just might shift an audience to look beyond might makes right, or even eye for an eye, to something deeper, broader, and higher, toward a truly radical love. Science historians argue whether someone beside Einstein would eventually have discovered the general theory of relativity. We could argue whether someone other than the person purported to be Jesus would ever have introduced radical love to society. What I think I know is, for Western civilization, the person purported to be Jesus did just this, brought radical love to society at large. In my translation of other religions' term for God, into translating it into caring, compassion, worth, and love, Jesus was the person who brought God's radical love to the land. If you pressed me hard enough, like when considering with Cam our making a lifelong partnership together, I might even be willing to say this: I can be saved from the sins of acting from might makes right and even eye for an eye, and instead act from, and now insert your own capital letter words here, acting from love, caring, compassion, worth, as capital letter words close to the heart. Just perhaps I could even say the man Jesus died a martyr for this unpopular radical love he introduced to society. So yes, if I translate hard enough, maybe I do believe in the atonement, radical love being the way humankind is saved, one act at a time, bringing light and new life to the world. Springtime. So be it. And Trish, it's time for us to collect our offering.
Indeed it is. I was waiting for the, I live across from the Presbyterian church, and for the first time on a Sunday morning in a long time, they've just been ringing their bell. So that we may all hear that. It's a wonderful sound. So it is time to collect our offering. Chad will put the donation link in the chat. Half of this quarter's plate collection will be shared with the Loveland Youth Gardeners. I find that very appropriate for our spring quarter collection. Here we go. I'll try to continue, but I do find that joyous. Loveland Youth Gardeners serves teens facing barriers to success in their lives, special needs, at risk for not graduating, behavioral and emotional challenges, living in poverty or single parent homes. In a supportive, nurturing environment, Loveland Youth Gardeners offers them a great deal. Participants grow their gardens and are taught a gardening curriculum which emphasizes sustainable horticultural practices. How appropriate on this Easter morning to honor the planting of seeds and hope. So please be generous. For our offertory, we'll be listening to the latest version of Peter Gabriel's song, Biko, in honor of those who advocate more fairness, compassion, worth, and love in the world. This is performed 35 years after the concert you heard earlier by Peter Gabriel. Please enjoy the musicians from around the world sharing in this piece.
September 77. Port Elizabeth, weather fine. It was business as usual in police room 619. Oh, be cool, because be cool. Oh, be cool, because the man is dead. The man is dead. When I try to sleep at night, I can only dream in red. The outside world is black and white with only one color dead. Oh, be cold, be cold, because be cold. Oh, be cold, because be cold. Hear a murder, the man is dead, the man is dead. You can blow out a candle, but you can't blow out a fire. Once the flames begin to catch, the wind will blow it higher. Oh, be cold, because be cold. Oh, be cold, because be cold. Hear a murder, the man is dead, the man is dead. And the eyes of the world are watching now, watching now, watching now.
Back from kitty sitting, but our bell is still ringing. So I'm going to try this lavalier. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm just thinking this might work instead of my regular microphone. Oh, what a glorious, glorious day.
Alleluia to the sun and to the earth and to all its people. Tidbits of childhood Easter mornings have been floating back to me all week. As one of 4 children, there was tons of chaos, laughter, and some consternation when we couldn't look for our Easter baskets until after breakfast. Then the hunt was on. I used to get our Springer Spaniel to help. He was very effective. Finally, we'd pile into the station wagon to get to church early since Mom led the choir and all of us sang. Choir robes, and off we went as the organ played a rousing processional hymn down the aisle. Without a theological thought in my head, I loved the music. In all the years since, I have found spiritual inspiration and guidance in many settings, still grateful for early years in the congregational churches of New England, where I'd grown up. Being inquisitive was fostered. I once asked our minister if Jesus had a last name. We decided that Jesus Josephson would suffice. I always suspected the stories in the Bible were just that, likely allegorical and sometimes stunning as literature. Later, I began to see the hypocrisy among some Christians and in the church history filled with atrocities. Life and friends had shown me so much more. Native American, Jewish, Catholic, and a few roommates who chanted in orange robes and traveled to India. As Unitarian Universalists, we include Christianity as one of our sources, so I don't feel able to easily brush aside this Easter thing. It broke my heart a little to realize the truth of the Christian church. Alas, I'm here among you at Namaqua reflecting on Jesus Josephson and the origins and meaning of Easter. It's a quandary, isn't it? Ironically, a balance of acceptance and questioning is common among Christians themselves in current theological thought, research, and practice. So as you use, it's certainly okay to reject and or accept all parts of Christian writings and teaching. The Bible, of course, says that Jesus was real, but what other proof exists? Is there any? First, there is some evidence of crucifixion in the hills near Jerusalem. There is no other reasonable archaeological evidence. But then nomadic peasants don't often leave behind a trail, do they? However, it turns out that within a few decades of the supposed lifetime of Jesus, he is mentioned in historical texts written by both Jewish and Roman historians. They had good reason to leave him out, but they didn't. They never said he didn't exist. One said that Jesus was executed by the governor of Judea for crimes against the state, and a movement of his followers sprang up in his wake. A Roman stating that information is remarkable. Another said that he knew people who had seen and heard a man called Yeshua traveling and teaching in the region. The dilemma for doubting Christians is this: the resurrection is central to their faith. As one of the gospel writers says in the Gospel of Paul, if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is useless, and so is our faith. There are many, many references and stories about the resurrection that come long before the time of Jesus, centuries before. And I wonder why, all along, people have seemed to need more than their normal culture, their normal traditions, their relationships with each other and with the earth. I am so sorry. The kitty just knocked everything over here. Would you bear with me a moment? He is now playing with our joys and concerns stones in the bowl. Okay, I'm going to try to get organized. Whether or not the people, places, and events from the Bible are ever proven, those in power apparently killed a man who had given people hope that they were guaranteed love and would be saved from lives of hunger and injustice. No wonder crowds apparently followed him wherever he went and opened their doors and their hearts to Jesus. They wanted and needed to believe in Jesus, and millions still do. The Reverend Carl Scoville explains in An Easter Faith that the resurrection comes with the recognition that any of our lives can always be transformed and begin again. Love and renewal, brokenness and then repair. I don't think I've ever given as much thought to the meaning of Easter as I have in the last few weeks. I now realize exactly when Unitarian Universalism was born in me. Shortly after finishing college, I had lots of adventures in Boston and on Beacon Hill and then in Harvard Square. I worked for a research group who looked at the presence of spirituality on college campuses around the country. That spring, a group decided they wanted to march in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, over Easter weekend to protest the imprisonment of the Berrigan brothers, the priests who were peace activists burning documents related to the draft and other acts of protest against the war in Vietnam. They asked if I'd join, and of course I went. We slept in church basements over Easter weekend, marched around the State House in Harrisburg. On Easter Sunday morning, the leaders offered us a Seder on City Island along the banks of the Susquehanna River. I looked around at all of the different faiths and colors of skin and ages of people, and I thought, this is flippin' awesome. So here we are in spring once again. The sun becomes the glorious ultimate hero for humankind and nature. We're tired of hiding away during the winter months, but I caution you to be wary of spring fever. It is known to take root, a pun intended, when there's even a tiny hint that the days have lengthened. As if drawn to a magnet, we turn our faces to the sun in hope that winter is past and the blizzard arrives. All of the seeds from seasons before are hiding. They burrow under layered, moist, mossy, disintegrating leaves and debris and simply rest. And here comes the sun. A couple of years ago, my music-loving mom took me to a performance of the extraordinary work by Johann Sebastian Bach called St. Matthew's Passion. It was done by the Colorado Bach Society up in Fort Collins. I will suggest to anyone who loves classical music that the Passion is one of the best reasons I can think of to sit in a warm pew in a Lutheran church for several hours. It's extraordinary. Written in 1727 for double choir and double orchestra. Imagine the notes and the harmonies. I honestly left feeling
as if I were on a cloud of divine alleluias. When I returned to my studio downtown, I heard noises coming from what they call the clay room down the hall. As some of you know, I live in the sculpture building where the Lundins work on their amazing bronze pieces. I love to peek in and see what's in the works. On this particular afternoon, I looked in and saw, standing in the corner, a monolithic clay sculpture of one of what they call Stations of the Cross. It was part of a project that would be installed on the Eastern Platte River. There in front of me, in clay, were Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene, reaching up to touch the limp hand and the garment of the deceased Jesus. A son and likely husband or lover. The body was being dropped down from the cross by 2 soldiers. I could almost hear them keening and crying, calling his name. What struck me about that sculpture was the humanity of all of the people portrayed. And I believe that that's really what strikes me about the resurrection, is that it echoes the humanity in each of us. So our face turns to the sun and the hope of the coming season. It is the same humanity within each of us that yearns for empowerment and perhaps enlightenment as well. There are thousands and thousands of works of art interpreting the Passion. It is, after all, about the power of love and being human. Sorry. It's a good thing we believe in wabi sabi. But what could be more appealing than all the power of love between human beings? It is fragile and powerful. The resurrection and the Passion images are about love and justice. They're about homage and deceit. It's about faith. It's something greater than ourselves. But let's get down to brass tacks. Festivals of spring harken back to growing and food to eat. On every continent and in every human language that ever existed, there has been the call to get to work. Dig, plant seeds, sweep away the debris of earlier, darker days, grow food. But let's just be amazed at the equinox the world over. The sun god crosses the celestial equator and moves northward. The 2 hemispheres of planet Earth have nearly equal amounts of day and night. Look, here come the daffodils. And the heads of perennials poke up from underneath autumn leaves and snowbanks. This is no myth. This is what sustains us. In Tolkien's Lord of the Ring trilogy, Frodo and Sam have been on an excruciating journey and collapse when they return, finally, exhausted. Sam wakes up to see what he thinks is a mirage standing in front of him, their beloved wizard Gandalf. And Sam says, "But Gandalf, I thought you were dead." And he is weeping. Then his weeping turns to laughter. And he says, "You're really here. I feel like spring after winter and sun on the leaves and like trumpets and harps and all the songs I've ever heard." So there we have the thread of love and of springtime and renewal. I think the resurrection in some form is something that exists because we all need to believe that it could happen. And it does. Rebirth is at the very foundation of our human spirit and survival and that of Mother Earth. Dr. Reverend Richard Gilbert has written, "A tomb is no place to stay. When each morning announces our reprieve and we know we are granted yet another day of living, a tomb is no place to stay. When life laughs a welcome to our hearts, which have been away too long. So really, it's safe for us UUs to rejoice." I think I've gone on long enough, and you should see the papers strewn and marbles and rocks everywhere. And now he's having a nap quietly next to me. So the bell has stopped ringing, and we've been together. And this is a glorious day. Blessed be, may it be so.
Don't you feel the love is all around, in the sky and in the ground, in every single living thing, and in the song that I'm singing? There are children in the streets that have nothing to eat, yet their hearts are full of love. They are beings from above. Love's everywhere you go. All you have to do is open up your soul. Feel the love inside you grow, and take every chance you get to spread the love everywhere. Can you feel it in the air? It's spreading everywhere. Can you feel the love inside? It's spreading worldwide. With every step you take, there's pleasure, there is pain. Every being everywhere, feel the love you share, feel the love we share, let it grow everywhere.
We gonna take this magical feeling, spread it around from when the sun rises till the evening. Let it touch the heart of the souls that are grieving, cause we rising and without you we ain't leaving.
Love is a really special thing, can't be replaced with anything, including diamond rings and rich, wealthy kings. The offspring of a butterfly feels the love once it flies. Doesn't matter what your size, you'll feel the love inside. Now there's a thing called hate, and that's a classified mistake. There's only room for love today, so forget all the pain. Can you feel the love inside? It is spreading worldwide. With every step you take, there is pleasure, there is pain. Every being everywhere, can you feel the love you share? Feel the love we share, let it grow everywhere.
We spreading love one at a time, one at a time. Doesn't matter your race, color or size. All I know is that when I look into your eyes, love is all I wanna spread. I realize I love you. I say that truly from my heart, cause I know if I don't start now, who knows when we'll depart. I have faith that our love creates a spark that starts a flame that will erase all the dark, yeah. Imagine that, dark turn into light, just cause one of our hearts loosened up from its tight grip, so it touched the next with all its joy and brightness. And that's the story of how we ended this crisis.
Can you feel the love inside? It is spreading worldwide. With every step you take, there's pleasure, there is pain. Every being everywhere, can you feel the love we share?
And now with that, we'll end our service by extinguishing the chalice, and then we'll have some announcements, and following that we'll have our quarter-hour coffee hour. To extinguish our chalice, I'll say these words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We have quite a wonderful list of announcements, which is the way our church continues beyond Sunday morning for events and things that are happening in classes. Almost all the announcements are found in the weekly email blast. If you're not receiving that, let us know. But here are a few reminders. Celebration of Life for Glenda Bell. A memorial service for Namaqua's beloved Glenda Bell will be held via Zoom next Sunday, April 11th at 2:00 in the afternoon. Reverend Laurel will briefly interrupt her sabbatical to lead the service. Please join us in honoring this remarkable woman who gave so much to our congregation.
And all members and friends of Namaqua should have received a survey. It's intended to give us an opportunity to be sure we are meeting the needs of our members and perhaps match interests with congregational needs, but no obligation, of course. And if you fill it in this week, Saturday or before Saturday, you'll be entered into a drawing of prizes.
Prizes. Parent support and discussion group. We're going to do a trial run of our parent support and discussion circle during the month of April for an hour Wednesday evenings, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. There is so much good parenting material online that we can watch and discuss. Please RSVP to Janan if you are interested in attending any of these sessions.
And here's a social justice reminder. You can sign up to support bills moving through the state legislature, one to support affordable housing and one in support of reforming criminal justice in Colorado. And it's easy. See the weekly email blast on how to sign up.
We have a Namaqua virtual game night. Join members Chad, Margot, Henrik, Trish, Sally, Nancy, Steve, and Karen this Wednesday, April 7th. We'll be playing a new game. Bring a book, any book will do, and play along as we use words and phrases from our books to answer prompts and questions. It's guaranteed to be way out of context and lots of fun. Contact Chad Escali or Margot Irvin.
And the meditation group meets to increase the quality of life no matter who you are. Join Susan and Janan for a meditation and discussion group in weekly meetings from 10 o'clock to 11:15 each Thursday. So that's each Thursday, 10 to 11:15. And they'll pipe in the gurus of Eastern thought and get to know each other through lively discussion after the sessions. So contact Janan Wright or Susan Moody for that. And again, you can see that announcement in the weekly email blast.
Also on Thursdays is our social sisterhood. You're invited to the virtual weekly meetings from 12:30 to 1. Bring your lunch. Contact Nancy Amsler if you have any questions or you'd like to make sure that you receive an invitation. Join us to enjoy the simple pleasures of conversation and being together.
And as we said, you can find out more about any of those announcements in the weekly email blast. And if you're not getting it, let our administrator Margot know, or feel free to contact Trish or myself.
And now is our virtual coffee hour, quarter hour. We'll have Chad invite each of us into a breakout room. So just wait and you'll see that on your screen.
to spend a few minutes, about 7 perhaps, and then you'll come back to be invited to join a second group. Again, just wait and you'll see that opportunity on your screen to mix up so we can chat with more people. Blessed be and happy Easter.